Well, good afternoon, everyone. We just had a lunch meeting by conference call this time, aware of the growing concern about the rise of coronavirus, and we adjusted our meeting to reflect our concern about it being extra safe in conducting what we believe is essential work for the American people. The subject of additional coronavirus relief is on the minds of lots of our members. You've already spoken to probably Senator Collins, Senator Romney, and others who've been meeting with Democrats about a possible way forward. We received a proposal through a letter from Speaker Pelosi and Senator Schumer last night. Let me tell you where I think we are. Leader McCarthy and I have been in discussions with the Secretary of the Treasury and the President's Chief of Staff to try to ascertain what the President would actually sign into law. And I think we have a sense of what that is. I laid that out in the call that we had just a little while ago. We're going to send that out to all the offices and get some feedback to see how our members react to a proposal that we can say for sure would be signed into law. I think the one thing we all agree on is that we don't have time for messaging games. We don't have time for lengthy negotiations. The issue is, do we want to get a result? And I like to remind everybody that the way you get a result is you have to have a presidential signature. So I felt the first thing we needed to do is to find out what the President would in fact sign. We believe we've got the answer to that. We're vetting that on our side, and then we'll let you know later whether we think there's any way forward. But certainly we know we can say, I hope, that this is something that would be signed into law by the President, be done quickly, deal with the things that we can agree on now. And I think we all know that after the first of the year, there's likely to be a discussion about some additional package of some size next year, depending upon what the new administration wants to pursue.
Between now and the end of the year, we have to wrap up a lot of the unfinished business of this Congress, and so we've got a number of nominees to important agencies and judgeships that we will need to be acting on and filling. We've got to fund the government, obviously, and of course we have to pass a defense authorization bill as well, all of which we will have to try and get done hopefully the next week or two, depending on how much cooperation we have. As the leader pointed out, the issue of coronavirus relief is also subject of discussion, and I think in terms of the any of these year-end negotiations could be, if there's an agreement, wrapped up and considered as part of a spending bill or perhaps separately, but in any case, it would have to get a presidential signature, it'd have to get 60 votes in the Senate, and obviously a majority in the House of Representatives. And so the question is, what does that look like, and will there be enough movement among Democrats to enable us to get an agreement? And I think what we've seen, of course, so far, we have now, not once but twice, passed, or I shouldn't say passed, but gotten 52 Republican votes in the Senate, a majority. If you could pass it at a majority in the Senate for a bill that provides funding for vaccines, that provides funding for schools, provides additional assistance for unemployment insurance, and also replenishes the PPP program, which helps a lot of our small businesses who are struggling and the workers who work there. Those are all things that the Democrats say that they agree upon, but they have insisted, at least up until now, on a bloated messaging bill on the order of a couple $2.5 trillion or thereabouts, which is something that obviously would not pass in the Senate and get signed into law by the President. So the question is, what can we get through the House, 60 votes in the Senate, and a presidential signature on? And I would hope that in the course of the next couple of weeks, as we are debating the year-end issues, that we can get some agreement on something that fits those basic parameters. Like I said, we had all but one Republican who have now voted not once but twice for a bill that addresses those critical needs and things that I think both sides agree need to be addressed. But it will require a level of cooperation and compromise from the Democrats that we have not seen or witnessed yet in order to get that done. But I'm hopeful. I think the American people need help. They need relief. Our small businesses need help. Our frontline workers need help. Our schools need help. And obviously, we want to make sure that we're investing everything we can in the vaccines and the therapies that will help us defeat this virus. So those are areas of agreement, bipartisan agreement. The question now is whether or not Democrats are going to come to the table in a meaningful way and help us get something across the finish line.
Nancy Pelosi has been stubbornly dug in since she passed her bloated messaging bill about 6.5 months ago, stubbornly dug in against doing a coronavirus relief bill in a cooperative way. As a matter of fact, right before the elections, she said that she would not budge. She's been dead set for using the pandemic as a way to push a far-left agenda because she was going to use this and pick up 15 to 20 seats for Democrats in the House. Well, what happened? As a result of her actions, Republicans picked up over 10 Republican seats in the House of Representatives. Why? Because the Democrats refused to deal and address the #1 issue, which is on the minds of the American voters, which was relief for coronavirus and dealing with the disease. So now here we are at a point where we have an increased number of cases around the country and around the world. And you say, so what is the House of Representatives doing this week? So I looked into it. Well, they have a bill that is going to be taken up in the Rules Committee tomorrow. It's called the MORE Act. I didn't know what exactly that stood for, so I looked into it, researched it. This is Pelosi's priority. Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment Act. Now, I don't know exactly what's in that bill, but that is the priority of the House right now. I don't know if it has to do with decriminalization, legalization of marijuana, making it easier for our kids to get marijuana in our neighborhoods. Whatever it is, that is today's priority of the incredibly shrinking Nancy Pelosi-run House of Representatives. That's not what the American people are talking about. That's not what I heard about in Wyoming this weekend. What I heard about is all the good news about the vaccine. People looking forward to having that available to them. Well, the Republican relief bill has money for distribution of the vaccine. The Pelosi-Schumer approach, well, they really do shortcut the vaccine. The Republican bill has money for paycheck protection, the Senate bill that we're working on. That's what small businesses are asking for and the workers are asking for. It has money to help kids get back to school safely so they don't fall further behind. This is the path forward for our country. The Republican bill is sizable, it is significant, and it is the path that the American people want to follow.
I think also safe to say that today Senator Shelby said we were making real progress on the omnibus spending bill. I know on the part of the labor education bill, I think we're down to only discussing report language with the full committee help. We're going to close that out. The four members, House and Senate, have worked through that bill over the last couple of weeks now, and I think we're getting to a good place there. I hope we are with the rest of the bill. The other topic I wanted to talk about today was the arms sale, the F-35 sale to the UAE. It appears that sometime this month there'll be a congressional vote on that issue. My personal view is it would be a big mistake not to move forward with that arms sale. Israel is supportive. I think it may be the only thing that Netanyahu and Gantz had agreed on since they formed their coalition government, that this sale should go forward. They say that understanding that there would be a qualitative difference between the UAE F-35 and the Israel F-35, and then another difference between what we have. But for 20 years now, 3 different administrations, we have increasingly worked closely with the UAE on defense issues, on the ground together, in the air together. in at least 6 different extended deployments. The UAA has been there. Clearly, the Abraham Accords, what's happened with Bahrain following, and I think others to follow that, will be impacted by whether we continue to have the kind of cooperation on defense issues that we've had with the UAE, again, for 3 different administrations. That will come up. It will not successfully be stopped by the Congress, I don't believe, but it's a debate that we ought to be thinking about. I certainly think we should continue with that arms sale.
First, I want to welcome back my senior senator, Chuck Grassley, to the United States Senate and our work schedule. Whether Chuck is working from his Iowa farm, whether he's working from his office here in the United States Senate, or whether he's teleworking because of the virus, Chuck Grassley works. He is always working. Many of you have probably heard the Chuck Norris jokes out there. You know, the dark is afraid of Chuck Norris. Well, we have our own Chuck Grassley jokes too, and right now the COVID is afraid of Chuck Grassley. So we are just very thankful to have him back and in good health and continually working for Iowans. He is just such a tremendous asset to our great state of Iowa, and we wish him continued health. As we are approaching the end of our congressional session, we do have a number of things that need to be done, and I just want to address 2 of those that some of my colleagues have already mentioned. One is making sure that we have a coronavirus bill that is done. Just earlier today, our governor of the great state of Iowa, Kim Reynolds, did state that Congress needs to come together and get a bill done. We have people across the state of Iowa and across this nation that are hurting. We want to keep a strong economy. We want to keep our citizens safe and healthy. And then finally, we do have the National Defense Authorization Act that is hanging in the balance. We need to work together to ensure that we get this completed. We have done this for many decades now in a bipartisan fashion. We need to do it again. It includes a lot of provisions that are very good for our servicemen and women. Things as simple as body armor for females, you know, body armor that conforms to the size and shape of a female. So simple. Well, that's included in this National Defense Authorization Act. So it is vitally important that we are putting our service members, their safety first, and getting that over the finish line. So I'm just encouraging our Democrats, come back to the table, let's work through these issues, let's get the NDAA done, and let's get this coronavirus bill done. Thank you.
Well, I welcome everyone back. I hope you had a blessed Thanksgiving. It's, of course, December 1st, and we still don't have a coronavirus relief package that has been passed, signed into law by the president, and is providing relief to the American people. Look, people are hurting. They're beyond frustrated with this whole exercise. Republicans have put forward a package that, as the leader has emphasized, can actually be signed into law. One that provides assistance to schools and students, one that provides assistance to our hard-hit small businesses, one that provides additional resources for testing. So why don't we go ahead and pass what we can all agree upon, what we know can be signed into law, and then we can debate and negotiate and give further consideration to additional measures. As it relates to small businesses, I'll tell you, Hoosier small businesses have been absolutely hammered, as have so many others around the country. A recent NFIB survey indicated that nationally, 75% of their members would either consider or would go ahead and apply for a second round of PPP assistance, the sort of assistance that is included in the Senate package. So whether it's PPP assistance or inclusion of the Restart Act, the legislation, bicameral, bipartisan, that I put together with Senator Bennett of Colorado. It now has, incidentally, 58 co-sponsors with the addition of Senator Perdue of Georgia here in the U.S. Senate, 180 in the House of Representatives, again, bipartisan. So I'm going to continue to push on this small business front and on the other fronts I mentioned to provide the much needed relief to the American people. Unfortunately, it seems the House is focused on other priorities. We just heard that they're focused on something pertaining to marijuana and giving more consideration to marijuana policy before year's end. That can be debated, but the far left needs to sort of cool their jets right now as we deal with the serious business and the plaintive requests of our constituents around the country.
On COVID relief, you alluded to the bipartisan framework that came out today. Have you had a chance to look at that? And since you're talking about the importance of the president signing something, the House would have to pass something too. So why wouldn't a bipartisan proposal that could potentially also pass in that body be a better way to go?
Yeah, we just don't have time to waste time. We have a couple of weeks left here. Obviously, it does require bipartisan support to get out of the Congress, but it requires a presidential signature. And this government is in place for sure for the next month. And I think the place to start is, are we actually making a law, or are we just making a point? And I think the way you make a law for sure is you know you've got a presidential signature. So we'll see how it goes forward. I think the one thing we all agree on, as I said, waiting till next year is not an answer. We need a targeted relief bill, including things that we can agree on.
The House Majority Leader has said that House Democrats are likely bringing back earmarks next year. Some of your Senate Republican colleagues say that with Biden likely being in control of the administration, Republicans should consider bringing back earmarks here in the Senate. Do you have an opinion about that?
Take your mask down and say that again.
Earmarks. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer says House Democrats are bringing back earmarks next year.
Yeah, I haven't given any real thought to that. I did hear that Hoyer said that. That's a decision, obviously, the majority has decided to make over there, and it'll be interesting to see how the Republicans in the House respond to it.
Yeah. In terms of the timing for a COVID relief bill, does it need to ride on the government funding bill? What should we expect kind of on a horizon when it needs to come out, when it needs to come to fruition?
Well, first, we're working really hard to finish up the omnibus bill, as Senator Blunt pointed out. Obviously, given the challenges of moving things across the Senate floor speedily, that would be a vehicle to add on whatever coronavirus relief bill we know will get a presidential signature. And obviously, as was discussed earlier, it'll have to have Democratic votes to get through the House. But I think it'll all likely come in one package.
Given the concerns you've raised over the years about the electoral process, integrity in the election, why have you not spoken out, and why have you been quiet amid the president's claims that the election has been rigged and it's been stolen from him?
As I've said repeatedly, we have this government for the next 3 weeks for sure. And what I'm focusing on is trying to accomplish as much as we can during this 3-week period, which requires dealing with the government that we have right now. The future will take care of itself. As I've said repeatedly, we're going to go through these processes. The Electoral College is going to meet December the 14th. There'll be an inauguration January 20th.
You keep saying that the president, you want a bill that would pass COVID relief that would have the president's signature. But he's been far apart from Senate Republicans. He's been willing to go as high as $1.8 trillion. Are you coming up on your number? And is there anything from the compromise package that you saw today, which included state and local aid?
Yeah, well, what I'm doing, maybe I wasn't very clear about, what I'm doing is talking to Secretary Mnuchin, who's been deputized by the president to indicate what he's willing to sign. And Leader McCarthy and I went over with Meadows and Mnuchin this morning, for sure, what we know will get a presidential signature. That's where we began the discussion at lunch today. I'm sending that proposal to all offices. It's probably been done by now. We're going to get feedback about how our members feel about it, and then to determine the way forward. Yeah.
Is the judicial that nomination dead, or do you think you will be able to try to reconsider that before March 20th?
Well, as you may recall, I changed my vote and made a motion to reconsider, so we can reconsider it in the future. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Trump and go right to Pence.
Weird.
I'm like,
Seriously?
so for the 64-second news conference, 20 seconds of it, it was stuck on effing Pence.
Oh, dude.
I was like so mad.
Weird.
But I'll try the setting that you just.
I actually haven't, I haven't even explored moving right on that section. I just keep it on that expand. I haven't clicked the wide or the tight or whatever.
And then I would have trouble where, and maybe that's where the difference is. I like, so I would have it where I would lock on something, and then I would recompose, and all of a sudden they'll
Sometimes you guys are in the back.
focus space get sucked all the way over to the edge, and it just like, it would just be like a magnet stuck on the edge, and I couldn't get it off of it.
And you're constantly more or less free.
Well, the problem is I'm a front button focuser. So in theory, I should be able to go halfway down and stay on whatever I need, and I'm not changing anything as long as I'm halfway down. But I had this long conversation with Jabin. Just my hands just aren't big enough to, focus with this, and I need my thumb to be able to hold the camera, and then do everything with here. I can't just hold it with my fingers here and then be able to have these two be free.
Yeah. Yeah, there should be a way to do that as well. I mean, for me, it's just preference in what I've been doing.
Yeah, see, I grew up on front button.
Is this cool?
Kevin!
How are you? Hey,
how are ya?
That's good. Gang's all here. Good to see y'all. I heard the most disturbing podcast last night that I was going to send you. It wasn't about me. It was about calamari. Oh, jeez. Don't do it to me. No.
Hey, Kevin, we got a certain way to do these.
Oh, that's it, rotate in and out?
Yeah.
How many positions are there in here?
There's three. Three? So we got the center here. We got where. All right. Bag the red is there. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Cool. We'll do clockwise. 5 minutes each or so? We'll do 5 minutes per person. 2 at 1 minute. Sounds good. We'll go on. We'll come in order of arrival. All right. That's quite all right. They haven't even asked for this, so I'm just here voluntarily. Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. I was gonna get an R, and then I really want to get the RX, the truly this version that's a mirrorless with a mobile shutter. That's not coming out till next spring. So I don't know.
Are they all social distancing out in the hall?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with the Sony. It's just.
I don't blame you.
You just close your eyes.
So Jess, I think, is gonna go full Sony. Gonna buy some stuff and sell some stuff.
Christmas and then try and work that New Year's week, New Year's Eve week.
Yeah, we're gonna stick. I'm gonna stick around. Jess might go home, but I'm here.
New York Times. Hi.
Hello.
I don't know if you have a seat in this. Come on in. You might have to give up your seat or somebody else should.
That's fine.
One more. Hopefully.
Love your dress.
Thank you. Thanks.
I know I'm here that week. So Jess might go home, but she might.
You guys are pool, right?
We're not sure.
I don't honestly know.
If I get kicked out.
CBS pool.
So I think that like last week we stopped tracking this and that was a mistake.
Julie sent us a note, I just don't remember.
Yeah, for sure, maybe.
Oh, good.
And, and what's his name? I don't know how.
And if I have to move, I'm happy to.
Oh, no, I'm not asking because of that, I'm just making sure I don't have,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's why they had me get tested like a bunch of times just to be safe. Good. All I saw him was outside though, so that doesn't.
Yeah. It's nice already. But now I heard that people are catching it again.
Yeah, I think that it was
Yeah, there was a story today.
decided collectively to stop tracking the poll position.
They still
For
say it's
this
rare.
one?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
But,
I've also been told I'm a rare
now
breed,
that, like,
so.
what?
I've been told I'm a rare breed, so. Knowing my luck, I would totally catch it again.
No one was here before.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was sort of one of
Who's
those
gonna get
things
it
where,
again
like,
for sure is
folks who
Ellen,
were
'cause he keeps saying we can't get
here
it.
Yeah.
had other pools elsewhere and like.
Well, he's
couldn't
taking
be here.
precautions,
Yeah.
whatever, it's fine, but
Yeah,
now
but
I
he keeps
think-
saying, oh, you can't get it
Yeah,
again.
we're
I'm
probably
like,
gonna have to figure
I
it
don't
out
know, that's.
Well, he said he had a pretty good immune response, that's why he was given plasma.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I don't think we all know anything.
No, of course not.
I would just leave it as, I'm gonna be careful.
Well, they're expecting, so they're both.
Well, I would be, yeah,
Even though they
insane-
both had it, they're.
Insanely careful. That's a whole different ball of wax.
Definitely votes today.
Is that curious what's going on right now?
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's anyone there.
Did McConnell say something about Schumer making them an offer?
Yeah.
They said that
They
post.
sent him a letter last night.
Yeah, they sent him a letter, but I don't think we know what the details of that were, so
Okay.
worth asking. Unless one of you knows, they didn't send that letter why, did they?
No. It's the first we heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Pelosi's out with a statement acknowledging the letter.
Gotcha, okay. Yeah, I thought I heard something about that, and I was like, what?
Yeah, that was like at the top of McConnell's remarks.
It's always so vague, like, just give us some specifics.
I know.
Yeah, why? I'm waiting for Schumer to come in, so I'm gonna have to go quickly. What's up? Is everything okay with you? So I haven't heard anything official on that. Where did you hear it? Huh? I have not had a chance to reach out to him and text him, so I don't know. Yes, that's what I hear. All right, are you okay? Well, you can get a test up on Capitol Hill. I did that this morning. Oh, that's right. That's right.
So now, where is the White House trees? I mean, that's
Closer to, 15th Street.
Did you do the one on Capitol Hill? That's not the quick test. That's the PCR test. Right, no, the quick test you get results in like 15 minutes. That's like what you get that's the one you get at the White House, which is pretty inaccurate. So the one on the Hill is good. Yeah. Okay, fingers crossed for you. Yes. Yes. Exactly. So it's supposed to start at 2:45, but he's, you know, a little late. Yeah. I haven't even, I was at a hearing all morning, so I didn't have a chance to talk to anybody, but not unless he's asked for privacy. So that's why I haven't reached out to him directly yet. So. Yeah, well, I saw the, thanks. Well, when I saw Zeke's note saying that a member of the press corps tested positive, I'm like, oh, it's nobody I know. Only to find out it actually is. So it just in that note said he was having symptoms, so I don't know anything else. Right. I know. Yeah. Yes.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah. Okay, I just got the 2 minutes. Gotta go.
Thank you.
Bye.
C-SPAN, do you copy? 2-minute warning. 2-minute warning.
2 minutes, 12 minutes.
How do we do this again? He's here.
I heard him.
You can see it.
Yeah, that's how I. you forget to vote?
Did I vote or did I not?
To vote or not to vote?
Did he leave? Yeah. He forgot to vote. Wonderful.
Wait, he left?
Yeah.
He forgot to vote.
Yep.
It's his first day off. We voted on the first one, but not the second.
Yeah, I don't think he realized there's a second vote in the series.
Oh, there's two?
Can I tweet this? Schumer president slightly delayed. He forgot to vote.
You should do that. Then
Basically guarantees I'm gonna get a question, right?
we'll all retweet you.
Hi, it's Allie. Yeah. Hello?
Oh, he's back.
Oh, no, too late. Window of opportunity gone.
All right, good afternoon. Sorry we're a little late. We got voting going on. Let me read. We're talking about nominations. And I want to thank Senator Klobuchar and Senator Menendez for being here. Today I had a productive discussion with Secretary of State Designate Tony Blinken and Director of National Intelligence Designate Avril Haines. We had a wide-ranging discussion that covered the globe and priorities for the U.S., foreign policy, national security. In particular, I urged the incoming Biden administration to be tough on China, but in a smarter, more multilateral way than the Trump administration was. What was immediately clear in our discussion is that President-elect Biden's foreign policy and national security team are exceptionally qualified, accomplished individuals with the expertise to protect our nation and advance American interests abroad. In addition to Tony Blinken and Avril Haines, she corrected my pronunciation, it's Avril, President-elect Biden continues to roll out an impressive slate of nominees to his cabinet and other key administrative positions. Now, after all we went through over the past 4 years, I would expect that almost all of President-elect Biden's nominees would be widely acceptable to the Senate. After all, Republican senators looked the other way and confirmed several of Donald Trump's unqualified, ethically compromised, and scandal-plagued appointees. Republicans argued that a president deserves broad deference when it comes to the cabinet and official appointments. Well, Republicans ought to give President-elect Biden the same deference. But we're already seeing more pearl clutching about overblown complaints from Republican senators who conveniently ignored scandal after scandal in the Trump administration. Honestly, the hypocrisy is astounding. After spending 4 years pretending they didn't see the latest insane tweet from President Trump, Republican senators have just found the passwords to their Twitter accounts, since they're now suddenly concerned about what's being said about them on Twitter. But after the caliber of nominees that this Republican majority confirmed over the past 4 years, it would be impossible to take them seriously. The Senate committees should prepare to hold hearings on President-elect Biden's nominees in January, immediately after the Georgia elections. That's what the Senate did for President Trump and for President Obama. That's what the Senate must do for President-elect Biden as well. Our nation's facing unprecedented crises. We need the next administration to hit the ground running to tackle these multiple challenges. That means ensuring that on January 20th, 2021, President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris have much of their team in place. I hope my Republican colleagues will look at Joe Biden's nominees based on their merits and their impressive credentials and not let petty political animus get in the way. Senator Menendez.
Well, thank you, Mr. Leader. Look, I want to echo, particularly in the national security front, the leader's comments. This is about our nation's security and prosperity. It shouldn't be about politics. There's no question that the slate of nominees, particularly in the State Department, UN ambassador, and elsewhere, put forward by the President-elect are capable and qualified. Now, does the Senate have to do its due diligence and vet them? Of course. Do we have to understand their thinking and ask them about their views? Of course. That's part of advice and consent. But there's a difference between that and some who are already suggesting that they seek to weaponize the confirmation process and seek to turn it into a political wrecking ball. Those who ultimately, for their own purposes, as they may aspire for future election to the presidency of the United States, wants to use the vetting process in a way that undermines the very essence of what we need our nation to be able to do on day one, is that the American people deserve to have a government that not only looks like America, but that is up and running from day one to deal with the pandemic and the economic wreckage that has come from the pandemic, and to pursue our interests and extend our values around the globe. Today, I was on a panel with European parliamentarians, and the cry from all, and these are all people from the European Union, elected, different countries, different political beliefs and whatnot, but the one thing they want to see is America be back and engaged in the world. That takes a Secretary of State. Tony Blinken is an incredibly qualified individual to help us once again be back on the global stage, engaged, creating more allies, less enemies, creating more prosperity, less challenges, and that also takes a UN ambassador. And Ambassador Greenfield is an extraordinary. I know her. I helped her become the Assistant Secretary of State for Africa. When I was the chair of the committee, she's an exceptional example of an exceptional career diplomat. That's who we need helping lead the national security of the United States. That's what we need to get on day one, which means we need early hearings in January and a vote in order to guarantee it.
Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your leadership, Senator Schumer, at this critical time, and thank you, Senator Menendez. I think that really President-elect Biden has set the tone here when he said This should not be a partisan moment. This should be an American moment. And we just don't have time to mess around. We have, as Bob has pointed out, security threats across the country. We've got across the world. We've got incredibly qualified nominees, which really are in keeping with the tone that the president-elect set from the minute the president would not concede this election. President-elect Biden took the stage and said, you know what? Give me a chance, people that voted for Donald Trump, and I'll give you a chance. He set that tone, and now you see that tone in these nominees, in people like Tony Blinken, in people like someone who won't come before us for confirmation, but I must mention because he's from Minnesota and used to work for me, Jake Sullivan. You see people that are well respected, including Treasury Secretary-to-be Yellen. And so he has really lived his words in who he has nominated, and it's our job to get it done. And the last thing I would add is that we are in the middle of a pandemic right now. I don't have to tell you that. And one of the things that we need right now is stability for the rest of the world and for our own country. And I am been pleased that my colleagues are moving ahead with some bipartisan negotiations. Obviously, that's not done. We know we haven't heard good words from Leader McConnell on this, but that doesn't mean that we cannot keep moving ahead, because we cannot have no leadership for America in place when we want to lead the world when it comes to this vaccine. That's going to mean funding to get this vaccine out. If I said at home, you just can't drop a bunch of vaccines in the middle of Laverne, Minnesota, and think they're just going to magically show up there. It takes coordination on infrastructure, on storage, and the like. And to do that, we need Joe Biden to be able to put a leadership team both internationally and domestically. So I'm excited to work on this. I think we have had great nominees come forward, and it is on our Republican leaders and us to work together to get them confirmed immediately.
Thank you, Senator Klobuchar. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Questions. You sent a proposal to Leader McConnell on COVID relief last night. What was in it, and are you let going of the $2 trillion demands that you previously had? And also, I'd like you to respond to Attorney General Bill Barr saying there was no widespread fraud, please.
Well, in response to Attorney General Bill Barr, I guess he's the next one to be fired, since he now, too, says there's no fraud. Trump seems to fire anyone in that regard. In the first, Speaker Pelosi and I sent yesterday a proposal to Leader McConnell in an effort to get things moving. I'm not going to get into the details. It was a private proposal to help us move the ball forward. But let's make no mistake about it. I just heard Leader McConnell say he's going to put another partisan proposal on the floor. He's going to talk to McCarthy and Trump and put something on the floor. The obvious fact of the matter is the biggest impediment to getting an agreement is the Republican leader refusing to negotiate in a bipartisan way. He knows darn well the House is Democratic majority. He knows darn well he needs Democratic votes in the Senate to get anything done, since a number of his people won't vote for any proposal. And yet he continues to negotiate in a partisan way. Speaker Pelosi and I sent him the proposal in a good faith effort to start to get him to negotiate in a bipartisan way. I always welcome and encourage my Democratic members to talk to Republican members, and there's another proposal that way. All are in efforts to get Leader McConnell to stop being so partisan, because the needs of people are desperate, desperate, desperate during this Christmas season and later.
That he wants to add it to the must-pass government funding bill. Are you worried about getting jammed and that you've lost your negotiating power and you're going to have to accept whatever he comes up with the president?
Let me just say, I hope McConnell will start doing things in a bipartisan way. Every time he's tried to do it in a partisan way, it has failed.
Leader Schumer, it seems like there's a debate within the caucus about holding committee chairmanships and leadership positions. How do you plan to proceed as leader on this issue?
Look, I think the bottom line is every 2 years, we have a robust discussion in our caucus about the caucus rules and what should be changed and what shouldn't be changed. And we're going to have another good discussion in the next few weeks.
This morning, there was a $900 billion bipartisan proposal proposed What do you think of that proposal specifically? Is your letter more than that, or around the same?
Again, our letter was done in a private way to get McConnell and maybe the White House to move. So I'm not going to get into its details. The bottom line is that it's an effort to get things moving forward. As for the proposal that the bipartisan group of senators announced, as I said, I've always encouraged our Democratic senators to sit down with Republican senators and negotiate. And this is a good effort. I haven't seen all the details. They haven't come out with the details yet. But when Democrats and Republicans can get together, that's a good thing. And I hope Leader McConnell will heed that call. Yes.
So, I'm assuming by this that Leader McConnell hasn't responded to your letter
Not
in
yet.
any sort
We
of
hope
way.
he will. It was just sent yesterday.
What about Secretary Mnuchin? Did he respond when he spoke?
We
on
just, not yet. We hope they will give us a real response so we can get something done.
Doesn't this that he's putting up
Next
proposal on the
question.
floor
Yep,
indicate
go
that
ahead.
He's not engaged on this?
Let's hope he'll negotiate in a bipartisan way. Thus far, every time he's done it in a partisan way, it hasn't worked. There's a Democratic House. They need Democratic votes in the Senate.
I know that you've said you encourage your members to meet with Republicans, but this proposal they've put forward is a full $1 trillion less than what you all are proposing. So is it something that you all think as a
Look, and
conference
we have
get
to see
behind?
the details. Bipartisan proposals, again, are what is needed to get things done.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Amy. Yeah.
I just, one thing I note about the earlier question about McConnell and whether he'll jam us and those things, do remember there were Republicans in that group, right? And while it is not nearly what we had asked for, there were Republicans that stood up and said they wanted this amount of money. So I wouldn't assume that everyone's just going to go down the path with Mitch McConnell this time when you have states like in Maine that have had so many small businesses close. There was a Yelp study out recently that showed 800 small businesses are closing a day. We have restaurants that have tried to hang in and can't do it anymore. We've got a vaccine around the corner, light at the end of the tunnel, but if we don't put the funding into it to get the distribution going and the storage going, we're not going to be able to recover like we want to. We've got the head of the Federal Reserve under Donald Trump, his appointment, Jerome Powell, saying it would be a tragedy if we didn't get something done. So I wouldn't just assume that everyone's going to go down his path this time. And I think that this bipartisan negotiation, while of course just a start and is significant to show that some people are willing to cross over to get something done, which Senator Schumer has been calling for from the beginning.
Okay, last one.
Joe Biden said that on his first day of office, he will give transgender students access to sports, bathrooms, and locker rooms in accordance with their gender identity in all federally funded schools. Do you think he has the ability to do this, and do you agree with this decision?
I agree with the decision, and I know he'll check things out thoroughly legally. Thank you, everybody.